What is going on, guys? You are listening to the very first episode of the XFL Pod Show. I am your host, Jeff Martin. Follow us on all our social media at the XFL Pod Show. Wow, what a opportunity for me here to cover the XFL for bodyslam.net, the Shining Wizards Network, and on all podcast platforms where podcasts are available. So, a little late than never by starting this podcast. I kind of was thinking about doing something different, wanted to venture out into football, but everyone's doing their NFL podcast. You got Jets podcast, you have, a Raiders podcast. So I wanted to be different. I wanted to talk about the XFL, first of all, because it's a brand new league, and also because there's new rules, there's changes. It's not that XFL from 2001 where Vince McMahon comes running out and he's like, this is the XFL. It's still, run by Vince McMahon, but it's not that one where you associate the wrestling and all that raunchiness. No, this is more professional looking, and perception is reality. And a very solid start to the XFL season for week 1. And I'm sure you've read the good ratings. You've seen that people are giving it a chance. You've seen the NFL players and the NFL announcers and people involved in the NFL very open to this league. Now, of course, you had the AAF, which, went bankrupt and went out of business mid-season. But right now, there's positive vibes here in the XFL. What I like about it are, of course, the rule changes, the differences, the transparency with the instant replay, the kickoff rules, just a lot of stuff, a lot of elements to this game that the NFL can take a look at and maybe use down the road. Definitely the instant replay has been right now so far a success, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will be asking the NFL to implement something like that. Transparency. We want to know what's going on while you're looking at that instant replay. Maybe if we had that during the New Orleans and Rams game, maybe, we could get into the minds of what they were thinking by missing that call in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. But this is not about the NFL. This is about the XFL. And, of course, week 1, very successful. A lot of feedback from it saying, hey, I want to know more about it. I'm going to give it a chance heading into week 2. And here in New York City, we got the Guardians who are 1-0 and heading into a really important game against the DC Defenders. You only get a certain amount of games here. It's not a 16-game season, so you got to make them count. And so it was a pretty big game here in week 2 against the DC Defenders for New York. So we'll get to that. We'll break it down. There were 2 big games in week 2. You had, of course, the Guardians at DC. Cardell Jones, could he improve from a week 1 performance that saw him actually look like a NFL quarterback, a quarterback in general? So did he get the job done? We'll get into that, and also we'll talk about the other big game, St. Louis Battlehawks visiting the undefeated Houston Roughnecks, and of course PJ Walker, who won the XFL Star of the Week for week 1. Could he continue his amazing play? Because the talk of week 1 was definitely the play of the quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks, and that was P.J. Walker. So 2 big games, and then also, too, you don't want to go on a huge losing streak, and you definitely don't want to go 0-2. Now, in the NFL, if you go 0-2, you don't want to be, technically there, but you do have more time to bounce back. Here in the XFL, there's only a certain amount of games. Once you get into that bad losing streak, if you lose in the beginning and you can't get off of that, if you're 0-3, 0-4, the chances are you're going to be watching from home the playoffs, and that's basically the flat-out truth. A shorter season, and there is no room for foul-ups. You really can't mess up here. You got to start off strong, and we'll see if which teams were able to get their first wins as well. Like I said, it's very important here to get on a winning streak early because of the shortened XFL season. So let's start off with week 2. Again, I'm going to get the main central focus out of the way, and that is quarterback play. And people did tune in week one. They were curious about it. The ratings were very good for ABC. And I think all in general, everyone was happy with the result. But again, the main thing here is the same thing in any league. It is your quarterback play. They have to be the ones that play out of their minds. They have to be the ones that you're going to, get that consistent play, because as your quarterback goes, so does your team. So let's take a look at the quarterback play of week 2. And I'm going to make the statement till I'm blue in the face. You'll hear it week 3, week 5, week 11, and that is that it is a quarterback-driven league. The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. You need to have the play of your quarterback be superior to the one of your opposing team in order to win. And right now, that's a huge question right now. You have a few quarterbacks that are playing well, a couple that are rebounded from week 1. P.J. Walker did continue playing well, and Cardell Jones really showed that he is evolving into that quarterback that we thought he could be in the NFL. So far, so good. But the other quarterback play, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Vipers. They need to improve their quarterback play. It is atrocious. And the Guardians, to me, you talk about a win where you really, it kind of masked a lot of, other things that happened in that game. The Guardians, their quarterback play was, to me, absolutely atrocious. You get shut out in D.C., and, you can't do that because there's already questions of how far Matt McGloin could get you. You win week 1, and then you're thinking, all right, we can get a nice little win streak here and not have to worry about the quarterback play yet. But now it shows you that it is a huge factor. It is going to be something that they need to correct heading into the next coming weeks, especially when they have to play next week and they got to go to St. Louis and play the Battlehawks. You can go from 1-0 feeling so good, losing to DC, getting shut out, and then have to go to St. Louis and take on a team that I think is better than the New York Guardians. And next thing you know is you're 1-2. So you want to avoid losing streaks in the XFL. Plus, you kind of want to be a little, positive about your quarterback. Now, you're heading into week 3 now. So I'm going to say that this league, the one main issue was just the play, the crispness of the players and the team. And you'll give it about 4 weeks because these guys have just gotten together in the summer, not that much of a training camp, and you got to go out there and you got to, play competitively. And so, you really, have to take, into these games that, it's not going to be crisp. Not yet. But you'd like to think these are professionals, and after week 4, you're going to get better play. Here's the other thing about the XFL, which is I'm a little bit concerned about, and that is the scoring. Now, it is an offense-driven league, the NFL. We want to see scoring. Defenses have been hindered by the offenses, and let's be honest with you, I don't want to see a 17-9 game. I don't want to see a 19-9 game. I want to see 35-31. I want to see 28-24. I want to see that. Now, do the extra point plays allow for that? Yes, but there just needs to be better running games, and there needs to be better passing games. And I will give it to week 4 before I, maybe like back off of that statement about the play and just about the quarterbacks and the high scoring. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. It is only week 2 heading into week 3. So by week 4, I do hope to see there be better scoring, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a mandate in the league. So let's clean this up a little bit. Let's get that play, going, because one of the downfalls of the XFL, the original version, is that the scoring was down. There was no emphasis on the skilled players. The running game really wasn't working. So the quarterback play wasn't really good. So now you've got some quarterbacks redeeming themselves, but the quarterback play has got to get better, and there's got to be more scoring. That'll keep the fans interested. That'll have people saying, okay, this league has some validity because you have some decent quarterbacks. Can P.J. Walker play in the pros? He's looking like he can. He is that running quarterback when he needs to. He makes some good throws, very accurate. And so, his progression during the season is also something that I'm going to be looking forward to watching as well. So now we get into week number 2. Like I said, week 1, everything was a bed of roses. Everything was well. They were getting praised. Everyone loved everything. So now the curiosity builds, and we have two big games in the fold. People are looking forward to XFL football on Saturdays and Sundays. It's gaining traction. Could these two games, could New York at DC and also St. Louis at Houston, garner people's interest? So let's start with New York Guardians at the DC Defenders. So again, Matt McGloin was a huge problem for the DC Defenders. That win against Tampa masked a lot of concerns about this quarterback. And, of course, Kevin Gilbride won a Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator with Eli Manning. So he knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. And, is Matt McGloin the long-term solution for the Guardians? You already have questions about, whether or not he can do that. And you saw a little bit of a spiff, a little bit of just miscommunication between him and the coach. Even Matt McGloin saying that they had to throw away the whole game plan at the half to Diana Rossini of ESPN. That's not something you want to hear from your quarterback. And who is Matt McGloin to call out the offense when you threw two picks and your passer rating is atrocious. It's a 10% passing rating. So they got to get that cleaned up. They went into DC, and they got absolutely trounced by the Defenders. The Defenders are a very good team, good on defense, good on offense. They have a nice mix of the run and the pass. Carl Jones made a beautiful throw, to the back corner of the end zone on one touchdown pass, and they just did enough, and they defeat the Guardians. They blank them 27-0, and that's an impressive win. And when you say they did just enough, they scored touchdowns. Carl Jones threw for 2 touchdowns, and they were able to stop the Guardians. They could not muster anything whatsoever, and at the end of the day, that win against Tampa, last week, you want to get those wins in because Tampa's a horrible team, but that was a kind of, to me, a phony 1-0 because they went up against a more talented team. They went up a notch in, against their opponent, and, they came out being blanked. So the New York really has to go back to the drawing board, and now they have a tough matchup against the St. Louis Battlehawks. But just take a look at Matt McGloin here. Look at his stats. 8 of 19, no touchdowns, 2 picks, and again, that passer rating of 10.1. The backup quarterback got in the game, too, after that, and it was just a disaster. What will Kevin Gilbride do? He has a quarterback issue, definitely. Can Matt McGloin rebound after basically calling out the offense and saying that we have to, restart the game plan? And here is, courtesy of ESPN, exactly just what Matt McGloin was feeling at the half.
What does this team need to do on offense to get something going here?
We need to change the whole entire game plan at halftime.
What do you need to change about the game plan? What are you frustrated about?
There's just a lot going on right now. It's been embarrassing for us here as an offense, so a lot of things we want to fix and correct.
Thanks.
Wow. Change the entire offensive game plan. And these are short half times.
So there you go. Blow it all up. Steve Levy was shocked. Like, whoa, the game plan's already finished by the halftime? And good effort by the DC Defenders. They're looking really good, and they're definitely going to be up there in the power ranking segment once we get to that. Of course, our power ranking segments every week here on the XFL Pod Show. We will rank all the 8 teams, and I think you kind of know exactly where the DC Defenders will stand. They'll definitely be in the top 4, and we'll give you bottom 4 as well. So the DC Defenders are 2-0, and they now will head all the way to the West Coast and take on the LA Wildcats. We'll get to them in just a little bit, but let's go to the next game. Tampa Bay, the Vipers at the Seattle Sea Dragons, and what can you say? Tampa Bay has a real problem with the quarterback situation. They're really struggling here. 16 of 27, 154 yards, no TDs, 2 picks, 44% passer rating, 141 total yards on the ground, a defensive TD for Seattle. Their defense really stepped up. They're playing in the CenturyLink Field where the Seattle Seahawks play. I'm not sure how the crowd noise was, but that's a great home field to have. But so Seattle gets off the schneid and they go 1-1, and their quarterback went 7 for 18, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 50.9% passer rating, 117 yards rushing, and there you go. That is the Seattle Sea Dragons for Week 2. Again, it's good to get a win. You don't want to go 0-2. You don't want to be in Tampa's position. Mark Trestman really shaking your head, had issues as Chicago Bears head coach. He's supposed to be this offensive guru. But again, if you do not have a quarterback, you are going to struggle, and struggle mightily. They are 0-2, and you can guess where they're going to be in this week's Week 2 power rankings. You had the Dallas Renegades against the Los Angeles Wildcats, both teams looking for their first win. These were the battles here of the over teams who didn't win in Week 1. And it's very important to get that win, get out of the schneid, so you don't have to keep thinking about, we got to get this one here in week 3 and Week 4. You want to pick up the first win as soon as possible, and the Renegades did so as well. Landry Jones was 28 of 40 for 305 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 TDs, and Cameron Artis-Payne, 14 rushes, 99 yards, and 2 TDs. So balanced attack by the Renegades, and the LA Wildcats now find themselves 0-2, an LA team 0-2. You want that market not to struggle. It really depends how many people are there anyways, but it's an LA market. You're the Los Angeles team. You don't want to go 0-2, but you're 0-2. And so now you await the DC Defenders, and I'll tell you right now, it's not looking good for the LA Wildcats. But the funniest thing happens, you got to compete. On paper, it looks like they're going to get smacked around by the DC Defenders. It looks like it's going to be an easy win for DC, but they got to go to the West Coast. They got to play the Wildcats. The Wildcats are desperate for a win. You don't know. Cardell Jones hasn't been on the road yet. So the Wildcats do have a chance, but I can tell you right now, I don't think they're going to get the job done here. And again, it's a brand new league. You don't know these trends when you're going to the road, how the team plays. So again, it's a crapshoot here. And I really do think, though, the DC Defenders, their play is going to carry over to the West Coast against the Wildcats. But the good thing about this league is it's the first year, so you really don't know the trends. You really can't follow what exactly a team is doing. So again, everything is a crapshoot, and but right now, from how I feel, I think that it's going to be a win for the DC Defenders. But don't count the Wildcats out, and most certainly here in this league is something that everyone's looking forward to seeing. How DC is going to play in Week 3. So you got that matchup there out of the way. Dallas gets their first win, and the Renegades, again, Landry Jones, an experienced backup quarterback with the Steelers, played with Oklahoma. He looks like he's getting it turned around, and again, their quarterback play was iffy in Week 1, and this week it looks to get better, and hopefully it progresses. Dallas is a good team in my eyes, and then, of course, we've got also another matchup, a battle of the Beans, and that was between St. Louis and the Houston Roughnecks. Another good performance by P.J. Walker, 20 of 31, 170 yards, 3 TDs, no picks, and 27 yards rushing. They get the victory. It's a very close game, and towards the end, a key interception turned that tide around a little bit, but the Houston Roughnecks are 1-0. You could easily give P.J. Walker the XFL Star of the Week this week. But, again, I think I've got a little sleeper. I think someone to upset P.J. Walker this week as far as the number 1 player of the week of the league in the XFL. So now, Week 2 is in the books. So you have New York getting their first loss. They're 1-1. D.C. goes undefeated. Tampa is just really reeling now right now. They need a win in the worst way, and they will be home for the Houston Roughnecks. So we'll see if they can, pull off the upset there. And then, of course, Dallas gets their first win. LA 0-2. And St. Louis gets a win. They're 1-1, and Houston remains undefeated. So, obviously, your top 2 teams definitely are going to be the Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders, really showing right now that they are the class of this XFL so far early in the season. So, guys, I want to hear your feedback. I will definitely be active on our Twitter account. I set it up, I think, just a couple days ago. We are on bodyslam.net. It's a great wrestling news website. You can catch the High Spot podcast there as well. Me and the Trendsetter talking about pro wrestling, having great guests, and of course, you can follow us on all podcast platforms. But we definitely want to hear from you. So if you got feedback on the game, any kinds of suggestions, anything, we here welcome debate. So definitely reach out and follow us on the XFL Pod Show on Twitter at the XFL Pod Show. All right, so week 2 is in the books. What did we learn? What we learned is that definitely the Roughnecks and the Defenders are the class of the XFL right now, and also the New York Guardians probably had the most overrated 1-0 of week 1 because they beat the Viper team, which is really not a good team, and they went into DC, played a higher echelon team, and got shut out 27-0. So there's definitely a lot of issues there, underlying issues between coach and quarterback, and the quarterback just in general. Is he talented enough to carry this team to a victory when they go to St. Louis and play the Battlehawks? So that's going to be an interesting game too in week. That's going to be in week 3. So looking forward to that one as well. So now let's do the power rankings. Power rankings for week 2. We got the Renegades at the number 1 spot. To me, right now, they're a little bit better than the DC Defenders. I'm going to say P.J. Walker is a little bit better than Cardell Jones, and I'm looking forward to that matchup when these two teams play. It's going to be the battle, I think, of the two best quarterbacks, too, in the league. At number 2, the DC Defenders had a great game. Again, shut out the Guardians 27-0. St. Louis Battlehawks at the number 3 spot. The Seattle Sea Dragons get the 4. The Renegades with the 5th spot. The Guardians fall all the way to 6 in my eyes. That is the biggest jump from 3 to 6 in this ranking. And then you've got the LA Wildcats at 7 and the Tampa Bay Vipers at number 8. Tampa Bay fans, come at me, but your team is really struggling right now. And, of course, the XFL Star of the Week. I'm going to say the XFL Player of the Week here. The XFL Pod Show Star of the Week is none other than Cameron Artis-Payne. And to go over his stat again, 2 TDs, 99 rushing yards. Definitely was a key factor in Dallas getting the first win against the LA Wildcats. So, there you go, folks. Simple, easy. What do we learn from week 2? What is an emphasis heading into week 3? The quarterback play has to get better from a lot of teams. New York, the Guardians, Matt McGloin's got to put it away. Put that loss to Defenders, it's history now. You're going now to St. Louis, and you're taking on the Battlehawks team that's going to be ready. It's going to be looking to get their second win. And, they need to stop this kind of like mini controversy brewing between coach and quarterback. What else did we learn is, again, the Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders are the class right now so far of the XFL. P.J. Walker, Cardell Jones are the class as far as quarterbacks right now, but you've got guys like Landry Jones who's playing better, and you know what? He's stepping up his game, and I really think that, one of the teams that kind of had a bad week 1 that really aren't that bad are the Dallas Renegades, so they came back, beat LA, and now they're 1-1. So that is my takes for week number 2. We got week 3 coming up again. Let's go over those games that you're going to see. Week 3 in the XFL, you got the Roughnecks at Tampa. You got Dallas at Seattle. You got New York at St. Louis and DC at LA. What we're going to do now is the point spreads. Listen, obviously you guys want to get money off of this. Obviously, if you're betting on this, you definitely, if you're watching the XFL and you're betting on the game, then you definitely want to go by the point spread. But just looking at this, the tendencies here, I'm going to go with Houston against Tampa. I'm going to go with Seattle over Dallas. I'm going to go with St. Louis over the New York Guardians. And I'm going to go with the DC Defenders winning on the road, beating LA. And we're still going to have 2 0-3 teams. I think Tampa and LA will go 0-3. So, guys, that's it. That is a recap and a half. Again, week 1, we were a little late on it, trying to get the show off the ground. But now we will be here every week give you a show, recapping the week, giving you power rankings. Looking forward to the following week. And so much more, guys. We want to get guests on here. We want to talk to you, want to hear from you. We're going to take your Twitter questions. So follow us on Twitter at the XFL Pod Show. Where can we hear the show? Well, follow us on Twitter. You'll see links to the show. We're part of the High Spot Podcast. You'll see that there on Spreaker. On all social media platforms, the XFL Pod Show. And we're available on, Apple Podcast. We're going to be available on the Shining Wizards Network and also on bodyslam.net. So if you're a wrestling fan and you've carried over into the XFL, just go to bodyslam.net. Check out our show there. Hit the tab, listen to the show. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. That is the first and foremost. We definitely want to hear from you, the fan, the XFL fan. You guys want to spot a platform to talk about the XFL. You guys are diehards. Take a look at the attendance. It's got to be fun to go to D.C. and see a football team, a winning football team there. The atmosphere looks great. So it did the same thing in Seattle. New York, MetLife, it's a bigger stadium, but the smaller venues really showing you the passion of the XFL fans. And again, let's be positive, folks. Let's be positive. A great week 1. So week 2, just because the scoring is a little down. But again, give it a chance. Give it till week 4. Let these guys hit their stride. The quarterback play will get better. And you want to see the running games and the offensive lines gel. This is an era in sports where it's all about the offense. We want to see the offense as a click. We want to see high-scoring games. So the XFL's got to focus on scoring more points. I think they will do so. The quarterback play, we'll see. I'll give it till week 4. But other than that, folks, this is episode 1 of the XFL Pod Show. I am Jeff Martin. You can follow me on my own Twitter at JeffMartinHSP. And I'm looking forward to coming back here next week and talking about what we talk about every week here, and that is the XFL. See you next week.